Hi there. Today we're going to be setting up the SignOn tutorial that uses Volt services with AppStudio. If you recently purchased or downloaded a trial version of AppStudio, we can use the trial version of Volt or the full version. In this tutorial, we'll be using the full version. The concepts are the same, however. Volt is a hosting service for web and mobile apps. We can find out more by going to docs.volt.io. Now, why would we need Volt services? Well, one reason is if you had an app that required your users or members to sign in with a username. Volt simplifies this process immensely, and that's because the service provides a set of API and JS docs that allows us to easily call functions such as member registrations, get user details, change user details, confirmations, and of course user authentication. However, if you're anything like me and want full control, Volt also allows us to send raw JS commands via JS files or remotely using PHP. But more on that later. We can take a look at the Volt API at docs.voltcloud.io.api. It's right up over here. And there's also a handy-dandy FAQ at docs.voltcloud.io, Getting Started, Frequently Asked Questions. I'll provide these links after the video. And finally, one last thing. It's good to point out that Volt succeeds the old AppStudio server and the Dropbox hosting. Both were good at the time, but is now pretty much deprecated. Okay then, let's get started with the SignOn tutorial. We can open up the SignOn example by going to the File menu, Open Sample Project, then choosing the SignOn file under the section Volt Services. Afterwards, make sure to resave the file to your work folder. For this tutorial, we're going to set up and run the SignOn sample to get an idea of the process. The sample is very handy because it runs out of the box. But more importantly, if we look under the hood, it gives us a wealth of examples that show us how to use the API. But for now, we're just going to deploy it. To deploy it, we go to the Run menu and choose Deploy to Volt. Then we click the Run button, and it'll set up a location for us on the Volt server. Two things to keep in mind. The first part is that it'll create a random string, like this one here. The second part is it'll also generate an internal app ID or scope. We can find out more about the app ID by going to Project Properties and Global Code. Now it's important to note that we should not confuse this with the iOS Apple Mobile Provisioning App ID. And here's the app ID right here. Now this app ID will be reflected in the Volt dashboard. Now that we've published the SignOn app, we do what we normally do if we want to become a user or member of the app. For example, by clicking Sign In, we can create an account. So I'm going to do that right now. And as we fill out the form, we'll be able to see some of the input validation in place as well. I place a password here and they're different. So we get this. Passwords do not match. And then we get this as well regarding passwords. And I put in matching passwords. I'm going to click Create Your Account. And there we go. Say OK. And we're redirected to this page. So we finally signed up and we're a member now. If we have a Volt dashboard account, we can sign in and check the list of users as well as do some light administration. As we've seen, being able to run the SignOn sample and see it work with AppStudio is very easy. As a next step, we can use the SignOn sample as a starting point for our own projects, namely matching up the Volt functions to customize our own sign-up forms. Thanks again for joining me as I document some of the functions and features of Volt and AppStudio. I hope to do more videos, but only if you guys like them. So if somehow this video was useful to you, please let me know. Hit the like button or maybe post up a comment. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.